Well, you know, those tomatoes that we looked at back in the clip about a month or so ago have done really well. I spent most of my gardening career in Vermont in Zone 3, and of course up in Vermont the license plates call it the Green Mountain State, but really it ought to be called the Green Tomato State. Down here we can really grow much bigger tomatoes. Those ones, the paste tomatoes, the Romas that we put in that horizontal metal cage, here they are. You can barely see the cage anymore, which is the idea. The tomatoes grow up through, and the tomatoes will all be on the outside of the cage where we can harvest them, but they'll be up off the ground, so we're free of a lot of the problems with rot and rodents and stuff like that. It's a really great thing for that. The taller heirloom tomatoes, we've got here 1 tomato per teepee. Teepees is the way I used to do it in Vermont, and I used to put 1 plant on each leg because the plants never got that big. Now the only one we're doing that way now is the early girls that we want for our very first tomatoes, and that's because we're pruning them off to a single stem to make them bear sooner, and we're doing pretty well. We've got a lot of good big clusters of tomatoes on there that they're almost full size and they're ready to start ripening. Probably another 3 weeks we'll have ripe tomatoes. But I'm experimenting now with different ways of trellising tomatoes that are more appropriate to the mid-Atlantic. And one is these cages that I got at the building supply store. They're concrete reinforcing wire. They cost $6.50 a piece. They're flat. I fold them around like this, put them together with cable ties that I got from the hardware store, and a piece of bamboo to stabilize the row, an occasional piece of rebar at $2 each. And you know, we're putting them on 3-foot centers, 6 to a bed, and I'm convinced that not only will they fill these cages, they're probably going to come way out the top of the cages, which is it's just the biggest piece I could get without getting a roll, and roll was $150. I didn't really want to go there. Now, one of the tricks with the tomatoes, of course, is planting. We've got another bed down here. I think one of the biggest mistakes that people make you know, growing a vegetable garden is to think they just plant once and that's it. We are always planting new stuff all the time, and even tomatoes. These tomatoes we just put in. We came up with an open bed. Lori and I talked about what do we want to grow more of, and we decided more tomatoes. And I happen to have a couple each of 3 of my old favorite heirlooms, which are Black Cuban, Black Ethiopian, and Big Rainbow. And so we put them out. Even though frost is long gone, we still have these milk jugs, and the reason now is because we have a squirrel that came and started nipping off our seedlings. So we just put this over here until it gets big enough that the squirrel isn't interested in it anymore. And as soon as these get up to a foot or so, I'll go make cages for them and we'll mulch the bed. Till then, I want to keep the bed clean and knock back the weeds for a while before we do the mulch. But this'll give us, you know, nice vigorous tomato plants coming in all the way until frost in probably mid-October. And you know, I think we're going to get a lot of tomatoes out of here. I'm not sure what we're going to do with them all, but can't have too many tomatoes, especially interesting varieties. These are the early girls. These are nice clusters. Early girl doesn't get a whole lot bigger than this, maybe another 20%. And I would say that these are about 3 weeks away from ready. So we'll have early girls for, you know, a few weeks, and then the heirlooms will start coming in. We'll yank these out and put something else in. They're really just to get us some early tomatoes.